Hello, my name is Emily Moore, and this is Module 12 of EDL 854. This case study is called the Budget Debacle. Section 1 is to give the summary and facts of the case study. This is a study at Briardale Elementary School. The school is made of about 600 students. It's a K-5 building. What has happened is that the foundation president for the elementary school, who is Mr. Barley, he was newly elected, and he had a goal to raise money for innovative curriculum programs. So he decided to put together a raffle for cash fundraiser, and it was approved by the foundation. When he did this, the night of the fundraiser, there was an anonymous tip to law enforcement. And so on that night, before the ticket was even drawn, or the first ticket was being drawn, Mr. Barley was arrested and he was booked. And there he was charged with a misdemeanor and then put on probation. With all of that happening, the principal, Carl Santos, was humiliated as it was published in the paper. So who was involved? Carl Santos is the principal. Mr. Barley, is the president of Briardale Foundation. Mr. Morley is another person that is involved, and he is actually the president of the foundation of another elementary school. The anonymous person from the community who gave the tip, sheriff, student, staff, and then the foundation members. So what has happened? Well, Mr. Barley was chosen as the president of the foundation. He wants to raise the most money that has ever been raised. He is a Harvard graduate. And actually, Mr. Morley, that I mentioned before, he knows who he is. They were former fraternity brothers. And they have a little rivalry there. Mr. Barley did meet with the principal about his role and what his job entails, and also with the foundation about what he planned to do. He proposed this idea of the selling raffle tickets to win cash, and it was supported. Tickets were sold, and all the drawing was held as a big community event. Someone did inform the sheriff of the raffle for cash, and so again, Mr. Barley was arrested and charged. Then, following the arrest, the event was published in the newspaper, and the principal was embarrassed when that happened. So this occurred at Briardale Elementary School at the community event that was put together. So Section 2 is legal and ethical issues. No one was harmed by this. There was reputation that was damaged with the school and with the principal. There were some legal issues. So there are raffle laws. And Kansas has a law that you have to have a license if you're going to exceed over $25,000. And you need to apply for that license like 30 days before the fundraiser. We didn't have a lot of facts on in this case, but we could put together that if he raised more than $100,000 at a previous raffle, and that's where he was getting his idea, he was most likely trying to reach that goal. And he also was in that rivalry with Mr. Morley. And so that makes us think that he's probably going to raise more than that $25,000. So that would be the legal issue that is being crossed there. As far as the ethical issues going along with the Mr. Morley, was Mr. Barley focused on the fundraising because the rivalry was that getting in the way? And then also, what are the steps for money handling in the situation? There wasn't really a lot talked about that. And then the other piece was, where was he getting the cash prize money? I think that would be an important piece to know as well. So to synthesize, what has happened? The Briardale Foundation, led by Mr. Barley, has hosted a fundraising event that led to Mr. Barley convicted of a misdemeanor and put on probation. So to synthesize the facts, the people that were involved, the principal, Carl Santos, Mr. Barley, a parent and the president of the foundation, Mr. Morley, president of the foundation of another elementary school, students, members of Briardale Foundation, and staff. The place was taking place at Briardale Elementary. And again, this is an elementary of 600 students, a K-5 school. It's located in the middle of town. It's diverse, has a diverse community. It is one of 6 elementary schools. And this elementary school is actually used for lots of events throughout the year. The programs involved is the foundation itself, and this foundation supports the elementary school. It has parent representatives, and the funds are given to the principal for supplementary curriculum programs. So to review and prioritize the information, decisions were damaging to stakeholders, reputation destroyed with the community, and the committee knew about what was happening. There was motive behind it because of the competition between the other foundation president. Teachers were consulted, most likely, and it stated that the teacher leaders were always involved in these decisions. Families were also aware of the fundraiser because they were there and they contributed to the fundraiser. And again, the principal was embarrassed. And I don't feel like I just don't feel like there was a lot of information. So making decisions moving forward, it would be difficult, and will be difficult. But I think there are decisions that need to be made. But there's just a lot of questions in the case study that should be answered. So moving forward, I'm going to share the plan after evaluating the resources needed, and use data ethically and equitably to develop a multi-year resourcing plan aligned to school goals and priorities, and then, of course, advocate for resources and supportive needs. So this section is about options and possible consequences. So I have 3 options here, and on the next slide I will talk about pros and cons of these options, but the first one is to have no action, just let Mr. Barley take the fall. The second option would be to reevaluate how we're using the foundation and make changes in how we fundraise and use the funds that are raised, and then also to create clear guidelines for fundraising. And then Mr. Barley needs some training. The last option would be to for me to, or the principal, to co-run the foundation with a newly elected president. So that means getting rid of Mr. Barley. So with each of these options, there's some pros and cons. So if we take no action, then there's no pressure. A pro would be there's no pressure on the principal, but there's some cons. Relationships could be ruined. They don't see that it might not show that I'm caring if I'm just kind of doing nothing about it. I'm just flat out ignoring the situation. But the second option, reevaluating how the foundation is being used and making changes in how fundraising is being done, and then creating clear guidelines. The pros would be that this could be done with legal action, in the sense of we can also pull up policies and create our own laws and policies, and then create our own, and the guidelines will be clear and set, so in hopes that this won't happen again. The cons would be that Mr. Barley would still be a part of the team, and the community might not be happy with that. They might still see that I'm not handling the situation, but then maybe they might see it as grace. Um, the third option, to co-run the foundation and get rid of Mr. Barley, um, I think with that, the school has more control over the fundraising, and there's more of accountability with that. And I just think that that would mean that more people are involved with the money handling, and that is a huge piece that needs to happen. The cons would be that it's not fully parent led, and I really like the idea of that, um, of the parent led foundation. So, looking at the best option, I personally think that the options that I gave 2 and 3 together would be the best fit. Um, I think Mr. Barley stepping down um, is a great option, and then also adding um, the principal into the foundation. But the biggest thing that I think needs to happen is setting up those clear guidelines. There has to be guidelines to follow, so that this situation doesn't happen again. So, when implementing that, I think it's important to address the community with transparency and the committee, and just share what's happening. Tell them what's happening, be transparent, be open with them. Mr. Barley obviously needs to be let known the decision that's made, so that he can step down. I think that the next thing would be to go ahead and create those guidelines and policies for the foundation and share them and start implementing them and making sure that's happening. And then get educated. I think that it's important that the committee, whoever is on that commit on the foundation, and the principal, and anyone handling the money, they have to be educated on laws, state laws, policies, and the school laws and policies as well. Some additional points. There definitely needs to be some more information in this case. I think there could be more options if more information was given. The building principal should be regulating the activity of the foundation. Parents should be able to be elected as the chair, but again, that principal needs to be involved. Anyone involved in the fundraiser should go through training, and more than one person should handle the money. The principal should ensure the foundation is held accountable with the money they raise, and with that comes the auditing with their funding, which is where the treasurer and secretary will take a huge role in that. The school principal should take full responsibility and move forward by making changes. Um, Leaders, parents, staff should all be trained. Um, and last, I think that in this, it's things are going to change. I think the community will be hesitant. I think that there's going to be some big steps in growth that needs to take place, because the community will be hesitant, and but the budget will be affected by that. I think people will hesitate to start doing some donations. But I think by putting all of these things in place and being transparent, open, that the principal will be able to build and regain that trust. And these things aren't going to happen with all these steps put in place. So it's been a joy working through this class, um, and just learning so much about building finance. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and have a great rest of your school year. Thank you.